Dear partners and distinguished guests, I would like to begin my talk on networks and their role in climate change education by asking you a question. It's one that I asked myself recently after reading the results of a study that left me quite alarmed. The question is, how does climate change and its impact affect the physical and psychological well-being of our children? The survey was conducted by SOS Children's Villages. It asked young people between the ages of 11 and 18 about their fears. It wasn't the coronavirus or poverty that topped the list. It was climate change. 80% said that politicians didn't take environmental protection seriously enough. More than 2/3 said they were afraid that the effects of climate change would negatively impact their health, and 62% believed that climate change wasn't discussed enough at school. Climate change impacts our children in several ways. The places they live are changing and could even be lost. Climate migration will increase dramatically, yet children and adolescents grow up feeling guilty that their behavior was somehow wrong and they are responsible for climate change. Not only are children aware of the impacts of climate change, but they are finding ways of expressing their sense of urgency through movements such as Fridays for Future. The time has come for next steps, supported by the adult world. The title of our conference today puts it quite aptly. Urgent action for climate transformation is necessary. In the survey, half of the respondents said they'd like to do more to combat climate change, but weren't sure how to do this. A deeper understanding of climate change education, can help calm the fears of young people, but it can also encourage them to look for their own impactful solutions and find their own ways of becoming resilient. The connection between STEM education and health is part of Siemens Stiftung's education work, but it is also an important building block of education in the future. All generations are called on to make behavioral changes, and while these may be painful, they are necessary. It's going to take a deep understanding of the complexities of climate change to get people to accept the responsibility of creating a sustainable future. Our foundation's work in STEM and climate change focuses on climate change literacy, climate mitigation, climate adaptation, and climate action. Climate change is causing societal, economic, and ecological transformation. Education, with its enormous reach and its long-lasting impact, is an important avenue for finding new solutions. As the common link between civic society, politics, and the economy, education can trigger and guide the transformations that needs to happen. This is where you, as stakeholders in the education system, have a central role to play. These transformations are taking place during an exceptionally turbulent time. Climate change isn't the only complex challenge we are facing. The COVID-19 pandemic has led to grave changes on a global scale. This is especially true in the education sector, which was forced to embrace ad hoc methods of hybrid and digital teaching methods. It was a crash course that only widened the existing digital divide. Education injustice increased the social rift in many regions, including Latin America. On top of all this, digitalization, globalization, and changes in societal dynamics are leaving their own marks. Our societies are swept in these changes, each forcing a reckoning that exists alongside threats to the climate. Despite all these urgent problems, I do not mean to paint a bleak picture. Change also carries the promise of new beginnings. With the election of Joe Biden as president, climate change is back on the agenda of the United States, which is committed to confronting the problem. Federal elections are scheduled for the fall in Germany, and the Green Party is campaigning on a platform centered on climate change. In Chile, Congress is considering ambitious emissions reduction legislation that would see the country become carbon neutral by 2050. and the recent weeks of social unrest in Colombia underline people's desire for progress and change. But how can this change shape a sustainable and just future? Over the next few minutes, I'd like to address a few key elements that influence how this could happen. First, the biggest challenges of our time can only be addressed collectively through the work of networks. Second, different stakeholders at all levels must be connected to each other. Third, new methods such as design thinking can be effectively utilized to solve problems in the education system. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about the networks. Why are they a potential answer to these challenges? And how can they be created? And why do networks, cooperative efforts, and cross-functional teams do a much better job with complex problems? For defining characteristic of networks, allow me to identify them as complex, adaptive systems. Networks are made up of several diverse elements, and it is precisely this diversity that reflects complex systems. Therefore, groups are in a better position to identify trends and find solutions, because the complexity of the problem is reflected in the diversity of the team solving the problem. In interacting with each other, the participants in complex networks observe and internalize the actions of the other members. The actions of one set of stakeholders influence the actions of others. It is a system that is based on each other. Adaptability is built in, and it is this adaptability that forms the third defining characteristic of networks. It is not possible to understand the entire system by simply observing its different parts. Cause and effect is masked. It's impossible to foresee the impact of individual actions because it is only in the collective interaction of single elements that new qualities or structures are formed. This is how networks cultivate collective intelligence, and it's the fourth defining characteristic that subsumes all the rest. Because complex network systems are defined by a great body of knowledge that is created in the permanent interaction of its individual elements. This body of knowledge is bigger than the sum of its parts. So the animal kingdom provides us with useful examples. For example, individual bees or ants do not possess a great deal of intelligence, but through their interaction with each other, these creatures are capable of constructing highly complex ant colonies and beehives. In the same way, solutions to intricate challenges like climate change can only be found in the complexity of the problem and is mirrored by the complexity of the problem solvers, those in the network. For this to succeed, the participants in the network must learn to interact and to share information. Communicating one's own ability is essential. In addition, participants must be willing to embrace continuous learning and to repeatedly confront and consider a wide range of viewpoints. I'd like to bring up my second point. Stakeholders at different levels must be connected to each other. Siemens Stiftung is a stakeholder and an initiator of a wide range of partnerships. We pursue strategic, academic, operative, financing, and networking cooperation at the local and at the international level. UNESCO is an important global partner, as are governments and ministries. As a member of the Office for Climate Education, we work with international foundations, NGOs, and research institutions on globally accessible teaching materials that are free to use. I'd like to illustrate this point with an example from the hands-on networking activities of Siemens Stiftung in Latin America. After 10 years of working in Latin America, our foundation boasts a network that includes many important partners and is still growing today. Cooperatively, co-constructively, and systematically, we work across sectors and across regions with strong partners in education. Through this collaboration to educational resources, teacher training formats, and curricula, we begin to confront challenges such as those presented by climate change. Alongside existing collaboration in 8 countries, we are about to implement an additional 15 new programs. 6 are in Chile, 3 are in Colombia, and 1 each in Ecuador, Argentina, Mexico, Peru, and Brazil. And more are on the way. These are all part of the STEM Education for Innovation in Latin America initiative, which creates hybrid offerings for a range of educational contexts with high, low, and no connectivity. The initiative brings together partner institutions from different countries to encourage interregional collaborations and network. Hands-on networking among stakeholders at all levels can be seen in our STEM network. It unites more than 75 institutions from the Latin American education sector around STEM education for sustainable development. As part of the STEM territories model, local stakeholders in selected regions work on educational concepts and STEM-oriented agendas. Their coordinated efforts are aimed at improving education within the context and challenges of each local environment. As a neutral and independent foundation, we act as an initiator and companion in creating closer collaboration among stakeholders in a region. This results in strategic and operative partnerships from the private sector, academia, city and regional administrators, and communities. In Latin America, there are already 15 STEM territories from Mexico to Chile, which vary in their size and thematic focus. Chile's STEM territory, Macrozona Sur, focuses on sustainable development education. The region's air and water pollution and endemic threats to biodiversity quickly led to common goals. Part of the collaboration includes a new course of study on education innovation for sustainable development. Participation by private companies supports these efforts in education systems. Together with the COVID-19 aid fund from the Siemens Caring Hands Association and Germany's Foreign Office, Siemens Stiftung joined 12 partner institutions from 7 countries in creating digital and analog construction materials for teachers. These include new blended learning solutions to interactive climate change maps, touch on science, technology, sustainability, climate change, health, and digitalization. I would like to mention some additional networks that focus on the digital realm, because these are increasingly important to our work. Our digital platform, CREA, is part of the Red STEM Latin America network. CREA includes an ever-growing collection of teaching materials. Triggered by the pandemic, an independent open educational resource portal specifically for South America was established last summer. The content was created thanks to a massive network collaboration. 70 South American partners were involved, ranging from education ministries to universities or local NGOs. In less than 2 months, the Open Educational Resource Portal went live. 12 additional international partners contributed 530 media on STEM subjects and sustainable development, created by these partners and their own networks. So transitioning to a sustainable, just future is possible by creating networks and connecting stakeholders at different levels. I've mentioned these points already, but let me add one final remark on new, innovative methods in education systems that provide students with tools, with the knowledge, and most importantly, competencies for addressing complex challenges such as climate change. Not every method fits in every classroom or every group of students. Methods can be used or combined in different ways, depending on the target group and the subject matter. At Siemens Stiftung, we focus on the methods of design thinking, inquiry-based learning, inclusive learning, service learning, and computational thinking. In an attempt to keep us on schedule today, I will only focus on design thinking. In the last year, we've worked on embedding the method in Latin America together with our partner institution, the Index Project, a Danish nonprofit. Design thinking is a creative and innovative approach for developing solutions to complex problems step by step. In interdisciplinary teams, students develop ideas, they build prototypes, and they test their prototypes' impact. Design thinking focuses on users and their needs. Based on a structured yet intuitive way of working, the method encourages the development of genuine, viable innovations. Science education is linked to creative process to encourage innovative thinking in young people. And we consider this to be the perfect method for climate change education to adequately address the challenges inherent in these complex problems. I'd like to return to the question I posed to all of us at the beginning. How does climate change and its impact affect the physical and psychological well-being of our children? Climate change and climate change education have an impact on our children. They may present them with immense and potentially painful personal changes and challenges. But in my opinion, this is also represented as a big chance. By confronting climate change, we are making a deliberate effort. We are learning to deal with complex problems that are simply a part of our globalized world. It forces us to learn new ways of working, to teach with innovative methods, and to act collectively, as a student body, as a school, as a community, as a state, as an organization, as humanity. We must all learn to live up to our full potential and to make that potential available to society through networks in service to our planet and its continued existence. Let's work together on achieving this, and let's work together for a healthy and sustainable future. Thank you very much.